What was that? Did you hear it? Probably not. But if your dog was in the room, their ears would have perked right up. Their head might have tilted. They might even be staring, laser-focused, at where that sound came from, a sound you likely missed completely. Or, and this is a bit more chilling, maybe they're staring at something you can't see, something that's making the fur on their back stand on end. This brings us to one of the oldest questions about our four-legged friends. Can dogs see ghosts? For centuries, people have told stories, shared experiences, of dogs reacting to things no one else sees, barking at empty corners, acting scared in places that just feel off. Are these just odd dog habits? Or are our beloved pets truly picking up on something beyond our human senses? Maybe even getting a peek into the supernatural? Today, we're not just asking. We're going to explore it. We'll look into some incredible stories, check out the amazing senses of dogs, and even touch on some science that might make you see your furry buddy in a new and maybe slightly spookier light. Get ready to have your ideas challenged as we uncover tales of their strange encounters and their almost supernatural awareness. What does your pet know that you don't? Let's find out. Our bond with dogs goes way back, thousands of years of friendship, work, and understanding each other. And for just as long, we've been captivated, sometimes even a little freaked out, by their uncanny knack for reacting to things we just don't notice. That sudden stop on a walk, ears up, eyes fixed on an empty bit of road. The quiet growl at a part of the room that looks perfectly normal to us. That weird fear or excitement in a new place. It's moments like these that hint at a world just outside our own, a world our dogs might know very well. Think about it. Many cultures throughout history have seen dogs as guardians or guides to the spirit world. The ancient Egyptians had Anubis, a god with a jackal's head who was all about the afterlife. Celtic myths are full of stories about hounds from some other world. These aren't just old fairy tales. They show a gut feeling people have always had, that dogs have a paw in unseen realms. But before we jump to ghosts and spirits, it's really important to get something straight. The world your dog experiences every single day is already way richer and more detailed in some ways than yours. Their known senses aren't just a bit better than ours. Sometimes they're massively more powerful. This amazing sensory toolkit is the first place we need to look, because it often gives us a logical, though still mind-blowing, reason for behaviors that seem paranormal. And yet, as we'll see, even these super senses don't always seem to explain everything owners witness, making us wonder if there's something more going on. The internet and old tales are packed with stories, first-hand accounts from dog owners who are absolutely convinced their pet has had a run-in with the paranormal. And these aren't just vague feelings. They often involve very specific, repeated, and sometimes downright terrifying behaviors. Take the story of Sarah and her golden retriever, Max. They moved into an old farmhouse. It was charming, rustic, but Max seemed jumpy from day one. He'd often refuse to even go into the main living room, digging his paws in and whining, something he'd never done. When she finally got him inside, he'd stick close to Sarah, his eyes darting nervously towards one specific empty corner. Then the barking fits started. Sudden, aggressive barks aimed at that same corner, sometimes right in the middle of the night, waking everyone. Sarah checked for everything. Pests, drafts, weird smells, noises from neighbors. Nothing. The corner was empty, at least to her. But Max? He seemed to see something that really bothered him day after day. Was it some faint scent from people who lived there before, too faint for Sarah? Or was Max unsettled by something else? Lots of owners tell similar stories about dogs fixating on empty spaces or refusing to go into certain areas. Then there's the story from a paranormal investigation team. They brought their specially trained Labrador, Buster, to a jail that was known for being haunted. The team had all their gear, EMF meters, temperature guns, audio recorders, but Buster was their living, breathing sensor. In most of the building, Buster was chill, sniffing around like usual. But as they got near the old solitary confinement cells, he changed. He started to whine, tail tucked, and he physically tried to stop them from going down the corridor. When they finally reached the darkest cell, a place with a grim past, Buster started barking. Not an angry bark, but a scared, distressed sound, aimed right into the blackness of the cell. He wouldn't go in. The investigators didn't pick up any big EMF spikes or temperature drops right then, but Buster's reaction was impossible to ignore. Stories like this pop up all the time, with dogs getting scared or agitated in places known for ghostly activity. Was Buster reacting to tiny changes in air pressure, or maybe infrasound that the humans couldn't hear? Or did his senses in that heavy atmosphere pick up on something the equipment and the people totally missed? These stories, even if they aren't hard science, are pretty compelling. They paint a picture of behavior seen by tons of people all over the world, making us ask, what are these dogs really picking up on? To get a grip on what our dogs might be sensing, we first have to appreciate just how powerful their everyday senses are. It's a sensory world so different from ours. It's almost like something from another planet. Let's start with that legendary sense of smell. A dog's nose is an incredible piece of natural engineering. We humans have about 6 million scent receptors in our noses. Dogs can have up to 300 million. And the part of their brain that analyzes smells is, proportionally, 40 times bigger than ours. This means they don't just smell more. They smell with a richness and detail we can barely even imagine. They could sniff out a teaspoon of sugar in 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. This amazing nose means they can detect the absolute faintest traces of scent, smells that have been hanging around for days or even weeks. So that corner Max was barking at? Could it have held the tiniest, almost molecular trace of a past event, someone long gone, or even an animal that had been there way before Sarah moved in? It's definitely possible. And get this. Dogs also have a vomeronasal organ, sometimes called Jacobson's organ, in the roof of their mouth. It detects pheromones, chemical signals that tell them about identity, emotional state, and even health. They can literally smell fear, stress, or sickness on us and other animals, sometimes even before we consciously realize it. This incredible skill is why some dogs can be trained to sense oncoming seizures or changes in blood sugar. Then there's their hearing. Dogs can hear a much wider range of sounds than we can, especially higher-pitched ones. We usually hear sounds between 64 and 23,000 hertz, Hz. Dogs, they can hear up to 45,000, 65,000 hertz. That means they can pick up the high-pitched squeak of a mouse in the walls, the ultrasonic sounds from certain electronics, or even distant thunder long before it reaches our ears. They're also amazing at figuring out exactly where a sound is coming from. So, that sudden bark at nothing? Your dog might be reacting to a sound so faint or so high-pitched that your world stays completely silent. What sounds like silence to us could be a whole concert of tiny noises to them. Their vision, while different from ours, they see more blues and yellows, less reds and greens, is super sensitive to motion, especially in dim light. Their peripheral vision is usually wider than ours too. So, a quick shadow, a tiny bug zipping by, or a subtle shift of light at dusk might catch their eye when we see absolutely nothing. Beyond these, dogs are also sensitive to vibrations in the ground and changes in barometric pressure. That's why they often get antsy before earthquakes or big storms, sensing tiny environmental clues that come before these events. Some new theories are even looking into whether dogs can sense Earth's magnetic fields, maybe through tiny bacteria in their gut or other receptors. This could explain their amazing navigation skills and how they react to geomagnetic shifts. Some research even hints that dogs might line their bodies up with magnetic north-south under calm conditions. When you put all these extraordinary abilities together, it's clear that dogs are living in a version of reality that's profoundly different from ours. Many seemingly paranormal reactions could just be these super senses picking up on perfectly natural things that are simply beyond what we humans can perceive. That ghost in the hallway could be the lingering scent of a visitor from hours ago, the ultrasonic hum of a faulty appliance, or the tiny tremor of a truck passing miles away. While the incredible sensory powers of dogs can explain a lot of mysterious behaviors, some stories are a bit tougher to figure out. These are the encounters where science kind of scratches its head, leaving owners and even some researchers wondering if there's something more to it. Picture this: a story from a family called the Hendersons about their usually rowdy beagle Cooper. Their brand new suburban house had one weird spot, according to Cooper: the spare bedroom upstairs. From the day they moved in, Cooper would go out of his way to avoid it. If a ball rolled into that room, he'd whine at the doorway but wouldn't go get it. If they made him go inside, he'd cower, tail tucked, and try to escape at the first chance. The Hendersons had the room checked for everything you can think of: mold, weird drafts, high-frequency sounds from wiring, even gas leaks. Nothing. By all human and technological checks, it was a perfectly normal room. Yet for Cooper, it was a total no-go zone. What made it even stranger was that other pets who visited, a friend's cat, a relative's terrier, also seemed clearly uncomfortable and unwilling to enter that specific room without any cues from Cooper. That consistency across different animals makes it harder to just brush off as one dog's oddity. Then you have stories of dogs that seem to be tracking something invisible. Take Nala, a German shepherd whose owner, Maria, shared her story on a paranormal forum. Maria would often see Nala suddenly lock her gaze on a point in midair, her head and eyes following something unseen as it apparently moved across the room. Nala wouldn't bark or growl, but her focus would be absolute, her body tense, like she was watching a fly. But there was never anything there. Sometimes, Nala would even get up and slowly follow this invisible thing from one end of the living room to the other, her nose twitching now and then. Maria, who was a skeptic at first, started keeping track of these episodes. She noticed they often happened around the same time in the evening, and sometimes seemed to happen right before odd things like a book falling off a shelf for no reason, or a door creaking open on its own. While those could be coincidences, Nala's steady, focused tracking is what really unsettled Maria. You see viral videos like this a lot, with dogs intensely watching and reacting to something their owners can't see, sparking huge debates. One type of story that's particularly powerful involves dogs reacting to specific, meaningful places or objects connected to loved ones who've passed away. An owner might say their dog often lies on the favorite chair of a recently deceased family member, whimpering softly, or even wagging its tail at the empty space as if greeting someone. Or a dog might suddenly get agitated or protective near an object that belonged to the person who died. While this could be a reaction to a lingering scent or just a learned habit, the depth of the dog's emotion often leads owners to believe their pet is sensing a continued presence. These accounts really make you think, because they challenge what we think we know. When a dog reacts to something we can't see, hear, or smell, and those reactions are specific, consistent, or even shared by other animals, the easy explanations start to feel like they don't quite cover it. It's in these moments of being totally stumped that the idea of a sixth sense, or something beyond what our current science can explain, really comes up. With so many personal stories and knowing about dogs' super senses, it's probably not a shock that paranormal investigators have sometimes brought dogs along on their investigations. The thinking behind it is pretty appealing. If there are subtle environmental changes or energies linked to paranormal stuff that our current tech struggles to pick up, maybe a dog's super-tuned biological sensors can. Numerous stories and even some TV paranormal shows feature dogs reacting in supposedly haunted places. Investigators often say dogs refuse to go into certain rooms, bark or growl at empty spaces, a common report in haunted locations, or show fear and anxiety in areas with a history of paranormal claims. Sometimes a dog's reaction has apparently happened at the same time as other weird readings on equipment, like sudden temperature drops or EMF, electromagnetic field, spikes, though proving a direct link is, of course, incredibly tough. Some paranormal teams think dogs might be sensitive to changes in magnetic fields or other subtle energy shifts that some theories suggest go along with ghostly appearances. They see the dogs not just as buddies, but as living, breathing detection tools, more sensitive in some ways than any man-made device. The idea is that a dog's reaction isn't clouded by belief or doubt. They just react to what they sense. As Grant Wilson from Ghost Hunters once said about their team dog Maddie, "She's not bringing in any predispositions. You can't get more honest than a dog." However, using dogs in paranormal investigations isn't simple and has its critics. Skeptics correctly point out that a dog's behavior can be swayed by tons of things. A new place, the stress or excitement of their handlers, dogs are amazing at picking up on human emotions, or even subtle natural things missed by the investigators themselves, could all make a dog react. A dog barking in a dark, creepy basement doesn't automatically mean there's a ghost. It could be a rat in the walls, a draft, or just the unease of being in a strange spot. Also, figuring out what a dog's behavior means is always going to be subjective. A growl could be fear, aggression, or even a warning about a totally non-supernatural threat. Refusing to enter a room could be due to a bad smell, a floor texture they don't like, or a past bad experience in a similar-looking place. Since we can't just ask the dog, investigators have to interpret their actions, and that interpretation can be influenced by what they expect or hope to find. Despite these valid points, the constant reports of dogs reacting in specific, often historically significant areas within haunted locations keep the idea alive. Some investigators even train their dogs to do specific things, like bark or nudge, if they sense something unusual, much like detection dogs trained for other jobs. For instance, Glimmer, a dog with Wolf Paranormal Investigations, was reportedly trained to respond to energies she senses. Whether these dogs are truly detecting spirits, or are just super aware of their surroundings and their handlers' cues, is still up for debate. But for many in the paranormal field, a dog's sudden, unexplained agitation in a supposedly haunted spot is a fascinating piece of the puzzle, a kind of biological alarm bell that makes them want to look closer. We've heard some incredible stories and started to look at what science tells us about our dogs' amazing senses. But before we get into what might be happening in their amazing brains when they run into something unexplained, we want to hear from you. Have you ever seen your dog react to something you just couldn't figure out? A fixed stare at an empty corner? A sudden bark when absolutely nothing was there? Tell us your story in the comments below. We genuinely read every single one, and your experiences make this whole mystery even more interesting. And if you're finding this journey into the unknown as fascinating as we do, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. That way, you won't miss our future explorations into the strange and unexplained. Your support helps us make more content just like this. Now back to the mystery of what our dogs might know about the supernatural. When a dog's behavior in a situation that seems unexplainable can't be easily chalked up to their known, even if extraordinary, five senses, we often start thinking about a sixth sense. This is the idea that dogs might have some extra, undefined way of perceiving things that lets them sense stuff beyond the material world, maybe spirits, energies, or even future events, in a way that's beyond normal sensory input. Scientifically speaking, the idea of a sixth sense in dogs, particularly one that detects ghosts, is very speculative and doesn't have solid proof. Science works with testable ideas and repeatable experiments, and paranormal stuff, by its very nature, is incredibly hard to study that way. There are no scientific studies that definitively prove dogs can see ghosts, mostly because the existence of ghosts themselves isn't something science has proven. Still, the sheer number of personal stories from credible dog owners, many of whom started out as skeptics, keeps the debate going. These aren't just quick, odd moments. They're often consistent, patterned behaviors that owners just can't explain away. The argument often goes like this. If my dog, who's normally calm and predictable, repeatedly acts super scared or focused on something I can't perceive, no matter how hard I look for a logical reason, then something is happening that's very real to my dog. So, what could this something be, if not actually seeing a spirit? Some theories suggest that dogs might be incredibly sensitive to tiny environmental changes that happen before or as a result of what we might call paranormal events. This could include tiny shifts in electromagnetic fields, infrasound, very low-frequency sounds we can't hear, or even changes in air pressure or ionization that our current technology isn't usually set up to detect in these situations, or that we don't understand yet. If these changes do happen, dogs, with their super sharp senses, might be the first to react. Another thought is that dogs might process all the sensory information they get in a way that's fundamentally different from us. Maybe their brains combine scent, sound, and subtle visual cues into an overall impression or feeling about a place or presence that we, with our sight-heavy and less rich sensory experience, just miss. This wouldn't necessarily be a sixth sense in a magical way, but more like a special ability that comes from their existing senses working together at an amazingly high level. Interestingly, some people who believe in a canine sixth sense suggest that certain breeds, especially those originally bred for hunting, guarding, or herding, might be more tuned in. These breeds often have heightened alertness, environmental sensitivity, and a strong instinct to react to anything unusual. Think of a border collie's intense focus, or a bloodhound's drive to follow a scent. The idea is that these traits might make them more likely to notice and react to subtle things that other, more laid-back breeds might just ignore. The sixth sense debate also touches on the deep emotional bond between humans and dogs. Dogs are incredibly good at picking up on human emotions and body language. It's possible that in some cases, a dog might be reacting to its owner's subconscious fear, anxiety, or even their expectation of something happening in a supposedly haunted place. The owner feels a chill, tenses up a bit without realizing it, and the dog, sensing these cues, also gets alert or anxious. This can create a feedback loop that gets mistaken for the dog independently sensing a ghost. While science tends to be skeptical about an actual psychic sixth sense, the mystery of why dogs act the way they do in these strange situations just won't go away. Many owners find the "it's just their senses" explanation doesn't quite fit the sheer intensity or weird specificity of their dog's reactions. Whether it's an unknown part of their known senses, an ability to perceive environmental factors we're not aware of, or something else entirely, the belief of those who've seen these things happen is strong. They see their dogs not just as pets, but as potential sentinels, with a unique window into a world that lies just beyond what we humans can grasp. The link between dogs and what seems like the supernatural gets particularly emotional when we look at what grieving pet owners experience. Losing a beloved dog can be incredibly painful, a truly heartbreaking experience. For many, a dog isn't just a pet, but a deeply loved family member. In the middle of this grief, some owners report experiences that make them feel their departed dog might still be with them in some way. A fascinating recent study led by Dr. Jennifer Goldbeck at the University of Maryland actually looked into these paranormal-like experiences reported by grieving dog owners. The research, done through social media, collected 544 responses from people who had lost a dog. The findings were pretty amazing. Many people described sensory experiences like hearing their deceased dog's familiar bark, the distinct click of their nails on the floor, or feeling the comforting weight of their presence in bed next to them, often at night. Others reported interpreted experiences, like seeing signs in nature they felt were from their dog, having vivid dreams where their pet visited them, or even seeing their living pets act as if the departed animal was still there. Maybe looking at a spot where the deceased dog used to sleep or trying to play with an empty space. What's really striking about these experiences, as Dr. Goldbeck's research pointed out, is that they were almost always described as comforting and reassuring, not scary or upsetting. For these grieving owners, the feeling that their beloved dog's spirit was still around, or that they sent a sign, brought comfort, a feeling of continued connection, and even a sense of peace. This is different from some traditional psychological views that might see such visitations or ghostly encounters as possibly unhealthy ways of coping. Instead, these experiences often helped people through their grief, giving them a sense that the bond they shared hadn't been completely broken by death. Of course, if you look at it skeptically, you could say these experiences are due to the psychological impact of deep grief. The brain, struggling to deal with loss, might create hallucinations or misinterpret everyday things as signs from the deceased. The intense longing for a lost companion could easily make someone hear a familiar sound or feel a familiar presence. These are definitely valid psychological points. However, for the people who have these encounters, the experience is powerful and feels very real. They describe them with clarity and conviction. One owner might talk about waking up to feel their dog jump onto the bed, a sensation so real they reach out, only to find the space empty, but still warm. Another might hear the distinct jingle of their dog's collar in the hallway, a sound they'd recognize anywhere. Some even report seeing a fleeting glimpse of their dog out of the corner of their eye. These aren't just vague feelings. They're often described as distinct, almost tangible moments. The question then becomes, does it really matter if these experiences are objectively real in a paranormal sense, or if they're a product of the grieving mind trying to find comfort? For the person going through it, the comfort and connection they feel are undeniably real. These encounters can provide a profound sense of reassurance that their beloved friend is okay, and that the love they shared continues. Whether you believe these are genuine spiritual visitations or the mind's way of coping with immense loss, these stories really highlight the incredible depth of the human-animal bond. They show just how much our dogs mean to us, and how their perceived presence, even after they've passed, can keep bringing comfort and meaning to our lives. The thought, however faint, that our canine companions might still be watching over us or sending us a sign is a profoundly touching one for many. So, after looking at chilling stories, the wonders of dog biology, and the moving experiences of grieving owners, where do we land on the big question? Can dogs see ghosts? The truth is, like with many deep mysteries, there's no simple, one-size-fits-all answer. What we have is a fascinating mix of information, some scientific, some from personal stories, that pulls us in different directions. On one side, science gives us strong and often amazing explanations for many behaviors that might initially seem paranormal. We know for a fact that dogs have senses that are way sharper than ours. Their world is full of smells we can't imagine, sounds beyond our range, and tiny visual details we constantly miss. Many times when a dog barks at an empty wall, stares intently into space, or gets antsy before a storm, it can be plausibly explained by these super senses picking up on real, physical things that are simply beyond what humans can perceive. From a strictly scientific view, there's no concrete proof that dogs can see or interact with supernatural beings like ghosts, especially since science hasn't proven ghosts exist in the first place. On the other hand, you can't just ignore the huge number of consistent stories from dog owners all over the world, at least not if you're looking at the experience of it. Countless sensible, observant people report their dogs doing things that genuinely baffle them. Behaviors that don't just fit into the "they smelled a squirrel" box. These are often detailed accounts of dogs reacting to specific, recurring presences, sometimes in historically significant or emotionally charged places, or in ways that seem to show an awareness beyond simple environmental cues. There are also plenty of videos and shared experiences where multiple dogs, or even different kinds of animals, react to the same unseen thing, which adds another layer of mystery. The real challenge is in how we interpret it. When a dog growls at an empty corner, is it sensing a draft we can't feel, a high-frequency sound from bad wiring, the lingering scent of someone who used to live there, or something else? Skeptics will always, and quite rightly, point to the simplest explanations based on known biology and physics. Believers, or at least those open to the idea, will point to how specific the reactions are, the intense emotion the dog shows, or how it seems to line up with other unexplained happenings, suggesting something beyond what science currently understands. Perhaps the most interesting middle ground is just accepting that dogs experience a reality far richer and more complex than ours. Their normal is already pretty super to us. It's possible that what we see as a reaction to the supernatural is, for them, a reaction to parts of the natural world that are hidden from us because our sensory toolkit is pretty limited in comparison. These could be subtle energy fields, atmospheric changes, or complex smell and sound information that their brains are uniquely wired to process. The "it's just" explanations, it's just their smell, it's just their hearing, while scientifically solid, sometimes feel like they don't quite cut it for people who have seen their beloved pet tremble in unexplainable terror or greet an empty space with pure joy. The emotional impact of these experiences for the owners is undeniable. In the end, whether you lean towards a purely scientific explanation or stay open to the possibility of something more, one thing is crystal clear. Our dogs experience the world in ways we're still trying to fully get our heads around. Their unique senses remind us that our human view of reality isn't the only one, and maybe not even the most complete one. This whole journey brings us back to a very personal and maybe slightly unsettling question. What does your dog know that you don't? That furry friend snoozing at your feet? Or the one bouncing with excitement when you walk in the door? What secrets does their sensory world hold? The next time your dog stops dead in its tracks on a walk, ears pricked, staring intently at something you can't make out, just take a moment. Pause with them. Don't just brush it off as, "Oh, that's just the dog being a dog." Try to see the world, just for a second, from their point of view. What tiny scent might be on the breeze that your nose completely misses? What high-frequency sound, totally inaudible to you, might have grabbed their attention? What little movement in the shadows did their sharp eyes catch? Watch them closely when they go into a new place, especially an old building or somewhere with a known history. Check out their body language. Is there a particular spot they seem drawn to, or one they actively try to avoid? Do they seem unusually alert, anxious, or maybe even playful in response to apparently nothing? Even if you're a die-hard skeptic about ghosts and all things supernatural, developing this deeper awareness of your dog's sensory experience can make your bond with them so much richer. It's a reminder that they're not just passively watching our world. They're actively living in a much richer, more detailed version of reality. They're constantly gathering and processing information that just flies right under our radar. And if you are open to the idea that there's more to this world than we currently get, then your dog's unexplained behaviors might take on a whole new level of meaning. That stare into the empty corner could be more than just a reaction to a cobweb. It could be a sign that you're not entirely alone. That sudden bark in the quiet house could be more than just the house settling. The beauty of this mystery is that it doesn't need a definitive yes or no to be absolutely fascinating. Whether our dogs are simply supersensory beings navigating a complex physical world, or whether they truly have a window into realms beyond our own, their ability to perceive is just awe-inspiring. They invite us to question our own assumptions about what's real, what's possible, and what it truly means to see. So, pay attention. Your dog might be trying to tell you something about the world they live in, a world that overlaps with ours, but is sensed with an intensity and detail that can seem almost supernatural. The truth might be stranger, or just more wonderfully complex than we can even guess. And in that shared mystery, the bond we have with our canine friends only gets deeper. They are our loyal companions, our protectors, and maybe, just maybe, our unwitting guides to the unseen. We've journeyed through eerie tales, delved into the science of dogs' super senses, and considered the profound impact of their unexplained behaviors. While science offers explanations for many mysterious reactions, their incredible smell, hearing, and sensitivity, the sheer volume of compelling stories from owners worldwide keeps the debate alive. These accounts, where pets react to seemingly otherworldly presences or bring comfort to the grieving by suggesting a continued connection, truly make us wonder. So, is there definitive proof dogs see ghosts? Scientifically, no. Yet, it's undeniable that dogs experience a reality far richer and more detailed than our own, perceiving things far beyond our human limitations. Ultimately, the question might be less about ghosts and more about acknowledging the vastness of our dog's sensory world and the limits of our own understanding. They remind us that our perception isn't the only one, challenging us to appreciate the incredible awareness of our canine companions. Oh, what's your take? Are dogs tuning into the supernatural, or are their super senses explaining these ghostly encounters? Share your thoughts and your own intriguing stories in the comments. We're keen to hear them. If you enjoyed this dive into the unexplained, please give us a thumbs up, share it, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more explorations into life's mysteries. Thanks for watching. And next time your dog stares intently at nothing, perhaps you'll look a little closer. You never know what they might be sensing.